This is Excalibur Heavy Battlecruiser, and today, after exams and real life stuff, I have returned to show you how to beat bosses once again. This time, we're going to take on Dreadnought. Now, Dreadnought is another boss that people find annoying and scary, and it's for a good reason. His crash damage and attacks deal incredible amounts of damage. Now, first of all, we're going to try a build that doesn't have much range and also not enough blast radius. Because frankly, even though Dreadnought does have pretty scary attacks, he himself isn't very durable. So with enough firepower and range, you can take him down without much effort. So right now we're gonna take Torrent and just make a pretty standard build, you could say. This is something that is very much in the realm of possibility for most players. Alright, let's go. That first order of business is use careful maneuvering. Like with Crucible, you want your movement to be deliberate and careful. Moving recklessly is a ticket to die quick. Now whatever you do, very much limit your melee exposure to Dreadnought, because he deals insane crash damage. 3 instances of me crashing into him was enough to take down my shields. You also have to be very careful with these missiles, because they can also hit very hard. One hit was almost enough to take out my shields. I think the iframes mostly saved me there. But in any case, Dreadnought hits very hard. Obviously though, do not at any cost try to take him from behind. Trying to attack him from behind will just deal a lot of bad damage. It's enough that even Leviathan mains will struggle from there. Alright, it's now time to go for the eyes. Thankfully, Dreadnought doesn't have that good of a durability, so you can just continue to fire on him, and eventually he will lose his eyes out. Once he does lose his eyes, you'll find that the fight becomes quite a bit easier. It's because these eyes somewhat determine how much firepower Dreadnought puts out with certain attacks. Like here, you only got to fire 2 of those discs instead of 4. Now, another thing that new players like to do, but I recommend not doing, is trying to go behind him to damage his rear eyes, his rear gun pods. Instead, you should just continue to damage him. Once he's lost 2 of his eyes, he loses a bit of damage resistance and becomes easier to kill. So instead, you should just focus on draining his HP down to 0 with sustained fire. And also careful movement. Still gotta remember, he can still be pretty dangerous. Alright, next up, we're going to try a Leviathan build. If you're wondering why 15 levels, it's usually the amount I get when I reach to that stage. You can get more or less, of course, but this is a decent enough benchmark, I think. Now this is something that'll be very helpful for you Leviathan builds. Take Adaptive Armor, no questions asked. This thing can help you a lot. And also take Channeling for good measure. Like now with Leviathan, instead of moving as soon as he fires, you have to move before he fires. If that sounds confusing, what I'm just telling you is try to predict the attacks. This will take practice, and you will fail multiple times, but it's okay. Because once you do learn things, it's definitely a thrilling sensation to beat Dreadnought with a build many consider is bad against it. And yeah, Adaptive Armor is really coming in clutch here. You really do need to take this upgrade, it helps out a lot. Right now that he's moving away, we should once again try to minimize our crash damage exposure to him. Alright, let's go again. Now, if you feel like the fight is getting too tedious, or you just want to be extra risky, you can try this. You can try to scrape against him for extra damage, but it's very much requires careful maneuvering, because if you get your head hit by him, it deals incredible amounts of damage. Well, while he is not moving, keep your distance. This way you minimize the amount of damage you take from projectiles. Now that he is moving, try to coil up and make sure the coils hit the eyes. If you can pull that off, you can actually shred his HP down to 0 really fast. Now admittedly, the build I used here was with Rapid Reconstruction and the whole Adaptive Armor tree. But what if we didn't have that luxury? Instead, we're going to try something that is less optimized, you could say. And when I say really sub-optimized, I really do mean it. Like, this is the kind of stuff that you don't really see most players doing, unless they really want to goof around, or haven't had much experience with the game. In this case, instead of trying to melee him, you should keep your distance as much as physically possible. And then close in once his attacks are done. Once he's gonna move, get out of the way. it's better... Also, if you are moving and you cannot avoid the missiles, try to run past them as fast as possible. That way, your chances of taking the full damage is reduced. It's kind of like Myrmidon bullets. If you do get hit by them, it's better to just move fast and avoid as much of their sub-cluster damage as possible, as opposed to just taking the full force. Right, we need to keep our distance. And get out of the rear. That place is indeed a death zone. Right, let's time the screen wrap well. Unfortunately, I didn't time it very well, but that is okay. Not every run succeeds. Let's try that again, but this time with more careful strategy. This also shows as a reminder that not everything goes to plan. And if you expect everything to go to plan, you will be disappointed by reality. We're once again trying something pretty similar to that. Just with more careful maneuvering. Station when I get. There we go. Now that we learned that you should not at any cost stay behind him, it's also a good idea to keep your distance. Right now that our shield has returned, we can just stay to the sides and also not fire, because remember, if you fire, your regen and cooldown is reduced by a good margin. You can also try to take down the missiles as well with enough firepower. Do fire in short bursts though, just to make sure you don't, just to make sure you can regen your health and shields back up. Another bonus tip for you would be to target the middle section once his eyes are all gone. That way you deal extra damage to him if you have blast radius. So all in all, we have learned that Dreadnought is a boss that hits very hard. It's also a boss that can very much quickly turn you into space dust if you make the wrong moves, and also if you play the wrong builds, because as much as we don't like to admit it, there are some builds which are just straight up too unviable for Nova Drift. Like, of course, the dreaded Barrage Vortex. Why does that thing still exist? Why is it so anemic? However, with enough skill and timing, you can still shift the odds to your favor and defeat some surprisingly difficult to defeat bosses, as well as in other encounters like that. With that being said, my name is Excalibur Heavy Battlecruiser, and as always, may the Forks be with you all.